All right, I'm checking to see if you can hear me now. All right, I'm checking to see if you can hear me now. All right, I'm checking to see if you can hear me now. All right, I'm checking to see if you can hear me now. Test. All right, thanks for bearing with me here. I was just trying to make sure my audio was set up right. Okay, everybody, we're gonna be live here in about 22 or 3 minutes. We're gonna be live here in about. I was wanting to make sure that our audio was working properly. It looks like it is. I'm gonna turn our audio off now.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
I want to first make sure our audio is working. So why don't
Yes.
you say something, Wendy, now?
Testing.
Okay.
And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We're excited about the event coming up next week.
Okay. It looks like we have the audio working properly. If anybody has trouble hearing us, please
Yeah,
let
just
us
let
know.
us know.
Yes. We have the lighting kind of wacky here, so we look more orange than we normally do, but we're still figuring it out. But thank you all for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And what we're going to talk about today is a new program we have called Bulletproof Your Bedroom that we're really excited about. It is a culmination of more than 12 years of our experiences working with people, and this is going to be real informal. Some folks in the Mind Valley community were asking about it, and several other folks, so we thought we'd go ahead and share a preview of it. It shouldn't take too long, although I told Wendy I'd aim for 15 minutes, so she said plan for an hour. So
Yeah,
we'll
15
see.
minutes for Steve is an hour.
Yeah. But first, if you could...
But we're so excited about the information to provide for you. I mean, so many couples have been through traumatic times with the pandemic and everything. I'm hearing a bit of an echo. What's that
Yeah,
from?
let me, is that your phone?
No, I have mine turned down.
Let me make sure I've got, I probably have something out of whack here. It's me. Or at least I think it is. Okay. I will go, let me switch back here. Okay. Well, first of all, if you could, please let us know in the chat if you can hear us so we can just get that housekeeping taken care of in advance and make sure everything's working for that.
Sounds like it's good and the echo's gone.
Yeah,
I heard a funny joke. A couple was giving each other the silent treatment, and neither one wanted to break the silence. Well, the husband had to go on a business trip, and he wrote a note for his wife to please wake him up in the morning to catch his flight. And he needed to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to catch his flight. And he woke up at 8 o'clock, and he was so annoyed because he missed his flight, and he was going to be late for his meeting, had to catch a last-minute flight and everything. But there was a note next to him that said, "Wake up."
Yeah, so we don't want you guys to go through
to
that.
have those situations or anything.
Exactly. So what we'll do is, I'm assuming everybody can hear us okay. Let me switch to our other feed and make sure that, because one challenge we have is we're a few seconds behind real time with YouTube.
Yeah, sounds good.
It does sound good? Okay. Let me just get this. Where to go? I'll catch up in just a second, or I hope I will. Well, heck. We've got a
Looks like
chat
it's all
screen.
good.
Yeah, I think it's good. Okay, so what this meeting today is about is to give you a quick preview of our event that starts next Wednesday. It's a 3-day event with a bonus class on Saturday that takes the experiences we've had, and we've had some very unusual experiences, and distills them into a methodology that if you are in a relationship or if you want to be in a relationship in the future, should help you out quite a bit. And
yes, we've worked with thousands of couples, and basically there are a lot of simple skills that you can learn to really impact your relationship. Some small tweaks over time make a big difference in your relationship.
Yes, and a lot of times our programs focus on high, which we will touch on in the program, but that is not the main focus of this. The main focus is what we found was people approached us. I studied anorgasmia. We'll talk about our background here in a little while, but I studied anorgasmia, or inability to have orgasm for women, in grad school. And we worked a great deal with that, and we worked with couples having problems. And one of two types of scenarios would tend to happen. Usually we were approached by one of the partners who wasn't happy with something sexually going on and wanted to fix it. The other side was there were people that already were pretty happy and they wanted to make things better. Mm-hmm. And me being the geek that I am, and Wendy being the brilliant psychologist she is, we took notes and thought about it and reflected on it. And we found there were a lot of really clear trends that kept coming up for people that had good relationships. And fortunately, we've been able to apply those to ourselves as well. We've been married over 20 years now, known each other since '99, and
April was our 20th this year.
April 27th, yep. And we'll heck, to go ahead and I have my handy dandy little notes here to try to keep me on track. But we'll explain our background here in a moment. But first, now that you know what we're going to talk about, I'll tell you the format we'll have in a minute. I want to thank you for joining, because this is not for everybody. This is for people and individuals that want to improve the quality of their life, to really live life to the fullest. And from this standpoint, it's using the newest information available in science and psychology and nutrition and mechanics to do that. A lot of times it's called biohacking. We're going to talk a lot about this biohacking during the program. We're also going to talk a lot about what I call psychohacking. I'm not sure if somebody else probably came up with that word, but I use it a lot. The general notion of biohacking is that you are attempting to use some type of innovation, whether it's food, machine, process, to improve something about your health and quality of life and physiology. Psychohacking is using techniques that are effective to change who you are as a person so that you can do these things, because if you don't do them, it doesn't really matter. And the way I've broken it down, because I studied neuroscience and researched that many, many years ago, and I've tried to stay in touch with it, but I've broken it down into a simple 3-part model, which our thinking fancy head on top, which is the cortex, cerebral cortex, that's me.
Kind of more the logical mindset.
Yeah, what's aware of us right now. We call that me. Then below that is your limbic system, which I call myself. And then the final part is the brainstem and the primitive, which I call I. And there are different approaches for those different parts of our mind. I'm not going to get all fancy and technical and talk about the different structures of the brain, because it doesn't really matter. What matters is applying a technique that you can get a consistent, measurable response from that you want. And that's what we're going to go over. Now, as far as who you are, this is aimed mainly at people that do want to improve the quality of their life and are into understanding science and that kind of stuff. It's not going to be ultra technical, or if it is, Wendy will hopefully poke me in the side and say, quit geeking out, Steve.
Or you can put in the chat, okay, you lost me.
yeah, please do. But we want to give you concrete things you can do from this.
And apply. I mean,
yes.
You don't have to have a science background at all, because we're making it distilled and broken down so you can apply this information.
You just have to have an interest and want to improve the quality of your life. And
your relationship.
Yes, and the core area that we're going to focus on is what happened before the pandemic that we encountered, and now it's a lot worse after the pandemic, is many, many times couples will get together, and in the early stage of their relationship, everything just works. They just kind of somehow click, and all these magical events happen, and they're both happy, and it's all rolling along. And then they, get settled down, they move in, especially if they have kids, and then with additional job stress, with moving, then later with other major life events of health, transitions for women, menopause, and for men, at least in the U.S., onset of erectile dysfunction in a lot of men, unfortunately. And
like we say, we're number one in America for that.
Yeah, it's not the best thing to be number one in, but yeah, exactly. But what happens is people start out great, And then usually one partner either maintains or increases that libido, whereas with the other partner, and often due to stress, their libido drops off a lot. And the other partner is approached by the more interested partner and it's like, get away from me. I don't, I've got to do this other stuff. Leave me alone. The more interested partner is frustrated and annoyed. And they're like, okay, well, it doesn't work this time. And they try the same thing again and again. And multiple times they get cut off and aren't able to do what they want to do. Meanwhile, the other partner is really frustrated because they just are tired. They're overwhelmed. They've got so much stuff going on. And they don't understand why the more, sexually interested partner can't see things on their standpoint. And the more sexually interested partner is just not getting it either. The ironic thing is a lot of times, the partner that's less interested in sexual areas will then get in the mood, but the way they communicate it to their partner doesn't click. It doesn't get through. And I've had so many people say, my husband's watching football and we could have had a great Sunday afternoon together and he just didn't get it. And a lot of times it ends up that both partners are taking care of their physical needs themselves, or they might be seeking out relationships with other people, which is not a good idea if you're trying to stay in a relationship. I think that's pretty obvious. And it just causes all sorts of problems. What we're going to present here is a framework for dealing with that. And it's a way that if both partners are willing to be honest with each other and talk about their needs and do what we're suggesting, both partners' needs can be taken care of in a way that works for them. And we've used this hundreds and hundreds of times, and it works. The only thing that could be a challenge is if one or both partners aren't willing to truly be honest with each other and do this stuff. Otherwise, going through these 3 days, and if you want the bonus class, will make a big change if you implement it. So it's up to you. Do you want to have a relationship where you just glow about each other and are happy? Or do you want to just keep things going the way they are? And that's a big deal because I think divorce rates went up, was it 150% in 2020? And it's through the roof now in separations. And number one, it's traumatic on people, especially when they don't have to have that happen. They actually did love each other. They just weren't able to communicate that right, and things kind of fell apart.
It's kind of like, I love to swim in the ocean, and, if you go swimming in the ocean and you kind of get everything set up, your umbrella and your blanket and the snacks or whatever, and then you go out and you have a good time in the ocean and not pay attention where your towel is located. And depending on how long you're out there, if you're out for a good hour or two and not paying attention, you slowly drift. And you might get out and be like a half a mile or several blocks away from where, you kind of set up camp. And that's the same thing with relationships, that you can slowly drift. And a lot of times it's the little things, taking, jabs at each other, or taking each other for granted,
or the current of the beach, which in this case is a pandemic and whatever else is coming. So it's real easy to happen, and it's very, very unfortunate. But the good news is this is one way, one tool that if you both are willing to do, it can really make a big impact. And if you're single, learning this stuff now will be a game changer for when you're in a relationship, because we're going to teach stuff that they don't teach you in school and you won't hear in the locker room, or at least I never did.
And we've seen people, that have come out of, for whatever reason, it may have been an abusive relationship or traumatic divorce, and they wanted to learn and apply these skills before meeting another partner, because they didn't want to have that repeated experience, repeated pattern. And so, like Steve was saying, learning these before you commit to a relationship, then you can take your next relationship to the level that you deserve.
Yeah, especially if you're a science-oriented, kind of left-brained geek person, because that's what I am. And we have a hard time with relationships and expressing ourselves sometimes, at least historically. I've worked in a variety of highly technical areas, and most of the people that are really good in that area aren't very good at communicating. And that, I guess that'll transition to our background, but I just wanted to say thank you for joining us and going through this journey with us and this preview we have today, because if you commit to doing it, it will make a big change. I really, really believe that. And we want to talk with you and communicate with you and make that happen, because we are committed to helping people improve their lives and live life to the fullest. That's what we do. We fell into this totally by accident. But the big thing is, and we have a product and all that fun stuff for it, but the big thing is the final result is people that are relaxed, happy, and connected. That's what we want. And as far as couples, our society, our culture is built on families and relationships, and that is breaking down in every industry that we are involved with. There are people that have been together for decades and they're breaking up, and Wendy and I think, geez, we really wish we could have talked to this couple, or the more than dozen couples we've encountered that have broken up, and now their battle lines are so drawn, it's really hard to come back from that. But this pandemic has really done a number on us, because we didn't just have these problems that we were talking about a moment ago where there's that miscommunication of need. The big thing with the pandemic is it has been a sustained stress. And now with the economy and the war and who knows what else is coming, but our bodies, and we'll explain this during the program, our bodies are designed, or at least it sure appears, our nervous systems are designed to handle some intense, tangible thing, a bear chasing us, fighting another human, whatever, and then getting over it, moving on. We're not used to these sustained long-term stresses that are the more abstract stresses of modern life. And with the pandemic, it has just been a constant. There has been no let up. And while we're clinical sexologists, we are not medical doctors, we are not counselors, we don't provide any type of psychiatric stuff. We just provide insights and coaching for what we do. But we have seen so many people out of this pandemic that are exhibiting what, at least in my understanding of it, would be post-traumatic stress syndrome. And that is horrible for relationships, especially when both people are in that, because the changes that happen neurologically, especially if you understand polyvagal theory, literally make it so it is much, much harder to reconnect. And if you can't get both people in the relationship to kind of relax, they don't even have the opportunity to reconnect, much less have intimacy together. And that's like Dr. Porges, brilliant, the creator of polyvagal theory at UNC Med School. He says that one of the most important responsibilities for all relationships and all couples is for each partner to honestly try to make the other partner feel safe and taken care of, because you've got to have that safe feeling before you can disarm and before you can get into things.
And that's for each partner, whether it's the woman or the man, or if it's a same-sex couple, each partner there as well.
Exactly. So that's our introduction. As far as ourselves, I'm Steve McGough.
And I'm Wendy McGough.
And we're the founders of Women and Couples Wellness, which produces the high massage system, if you haven't seen it. This product, prior to that, I was in neuroscience research and left to work in the tech industry. And this product was discovered accidentally. It's a long career. There'll be a documentary about a long, crazy story in of itself, where we lost our first child, and Wendy had a nightmare of 2 years in and out of ICU. And when she finally recovered, she had these horrible tissue adhesions from multiple surgeries.
And I was going to have more extensive surgeries.
Yes, and that product was originally created in my attempt to try to help her not deal with that. Unfortunately, no medical claims, but she was able to avoid those challenges. But it had a side effect we were not expecting. It induced orgasms abdominally for her. And since I had been at Wake Forest School of Medicine at the Center for Investigative Neuroscience in years past, I took the thing, I did dot my I's and cross my T's for patents and all that, but I went to the guys and they were fascinated with it. Absolutely fascinated, but they would not study it because it was too controversial because of the side effect. Well, fast forward 12 years with that side effect, and we have now we commercialized the product and have had a more bizarre journey than you could probably imagine. A lot of times we can't even imagine the stuff we've seen. But it's allowed us to see human sexuality from a very different standpoint and relationships from a different standpoint, because in the United States in particular, sexology and human sexuality, the only safe way to publish or to present it is third person past tense. According to our surveys, people that were involved in blah 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 act like this, therefore you should blah blah blah. Well, the problem with that is a lot of times past tense surveys aren't accurate, and it doesn't address the real human condition. Our device induced orgasms through clothing, real time. So we were able to see things and talk with people about things that normally they just don't talk about, and that caused us to have a very, very different perspective on things. But we ended up getting our doctorates in human sexuality, focusing on clinical sexology, and basically studied this very, very carefully. So that's how we're here, and why we're doing this program. We decided to do the Bulletproof Your Bedroom program because so many people in the technical areas were having problems in their relationships, and we wanted to help out with that. But to try to keep myself on target, what we'll talk about here for a moment is give you a quick preview of the 3 dates and what they're about. If you look at our website,
and it's coming up this week.
Yes, it's coming up very, very soon. Where did it go? Oh, there we go. Let me switch to screen capture, and hopefully you are seeing the site. What we're going to do is have 3 dates. The first date is turning frustration into passion. During that, well, I'll go over the details of it here in a moment. That's Wednesday evening. It'll take 45 minutes to an hour, and then we'll have a worksheet for couples to actually go on a date with if they want to do some homework, and I promise you it's fun stuff.
Yeah, we should probably call it play instead of worksheet.
Yeah, exactly. To give you an idea of what we're going to talk about, basically we're going to cover some of the biggest misunderstandings that we have found with couples, where a lot of times both partners think they're on the same page and they're not. That is a game changer, just knowing that. Then we're going to talk about the 5 different major motivations we've seen for sex in people. And many, many times, men are coming from a very different motivation than women, and they don't realize it. And they don't understand the male sex drive in relation to the female sex drive. So we're going to clear up a lot of things to try to help you get back on the same page, so you want to be together again, and you understand each other's needs. The second date, Thursday, is how to bulletproof your bedroom. With that, we're going to give you some projects to do where you actually physically go to your bedroom and you make some changes. There are many things that are simple, easy fixes that can profoundly change your bedroom. For instance, we put a little sliding bolt lock on our door because our daughter is a lot smarter than me, and she can pick our lock. She learned to pick locks early. She literally, So there are many changes that we can share with you about changing your bedroom that will make it more conducive to wanting to have fun together. We also are going to talk about ways to schedule things so that you do have at least a little bit of time for the woman and a little bit of time for the guy, or either partner, for whatever arrangement you have.
And on a consistent basis, like you would schedule regular meetings at work or your business. It's just as important to prioritize your relationship. Sometimes people will put it in a little box like, I've got 30 minutes a week, for my partner, and that's about it, or a quick dinner. It doesn't necessarily take a lot of time, but taking some time to apply these concepts is very important. Where your energy and attention goes, that's where you're going to see the benefit in your life.
Yes, and during that session also, we're going to talk about working out ways, if you have kids, to have an armistice with them so you can have your time together in a way that's not weird and that works, and quite a few other things. And we've ended up with ways to improve your sleep, because good deep sleep is another thing that a lot of people have had problems with. And there are just a handful of easy hacks you can do that are game changers, because if you can get deeper sleep, everything about your life will improve. So we're going to go through that. Also touch on sleep apnea, which is a medical condition. We are not medical doctors. We're not qualified to diagnose or anything in that area. But if you feel like you are having these symptoms, we strongly advise that you get it checked out. And there are phone apps you can use if you're just curious, or go and see a doctor for that. Because sleep apnea is a major cause of erectile dysfunction in men, as well as reduced libido in both men and women, and it can kill you too. So that's something that...
That's what I was going to say, profoundly affect your health or your partner's health.
Yes. The third date, getting back to my handy dandy, I know, please bear with me. The third date, in fact, let me close these things because you can see I was looking up trying to find the best settings for that. Basically talks about how to feel alive again. And what that is going to cover is what we have learned from sexology in the real world, dealing with people, first person present tense. We're going to talk about first ways to safely express what you want with each other in a way that you feel that your other partner is not going to judge you or leave you or start an argument. We found well over 90% of couples never tell each other what they want sexually, and that's a real shame, because... But
they might tell us the first time they meet us,
but
not their partner. And it's just astounding. We do create that comfortable environment in our coaching sessions and everything, but it is astounding that it's kind of like that Pina Colada song, where they didn't know that they had the same interests, and getting caught in the rain, that song, where they wanted to meet another person instead of communicating with each other. I like pina coladas too. I like dancing in the rain. Sharing your hopes and dreams and desires, and allowing your partner, that same, without safety without judgment.
Yeah, because if you are committed to a long-term relationship, you might as well have the most fun you can. And at least that's our thought. As long as it's safe and consensual and you're not hurting anybody else, it's what makes life interesting, in my opinion. And for a lot of people, we've seen that. But on the third date, we're also going to go over some practical approaches for female libido if it has dropped, and ways to deal with that, as well as male libido that's dropped. That male libido going down and fertility going down from the male side has become a major issue in a lot of Western countries, and especially in many Asian locations that I work closely with. The birth rate has just dropped to almost nothing.
And it's happening more and more for younger men, from a combination of factors, including stress, diet, lifestyle, all of that.
Yes.
So it's assumed, ED's not going to affect somebody until they're older. But
we've people in their 20s.
Yes.
Yeah. And things like walking around with your phone, looking down at that, with how it causes your brain to focus, and it shifts your spine, which impacts the vagus nerve, and many other things that aren't obvious that you can change, can make a big difference. It takes a couple weeks to kick in to have the impact. But we're going to cover female libido and male libido, and some nutritional supplements that can help improve your overall health. I get interviewed every January talking about Valentine's coming up by a bunch of magazines on what are the aphrodisiacs, and I've yet to find a true aphrodisiac other than the pharmaceutical things that are, in my opinion, not safe. But there are compounds that basically help stabilize your system and help reduce cortisol, and when your cortisol has gone down, you have more DHEA to make other hormones, and by improving your overall health, you improve your libido, as well as reducing your stress levels. We'll also briefly touch on why some of these herbs, people say, take this supplement. Well, your body will develop a tolerance to them. And that you have to know how to switch things out sometimes. So we'll touch on that. We'll also touch on, in that realm, certain herbs that can help people if they're trying to transition off addictions, because addiction is another killer of relationships, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or other things. And this won't be a fix for addiction as a subset, but we'll just touch on it because there are some ways. Dr. Glasser has a wonderful approach he calls positive addictions, where you find other things that you really enjoy that are healthy and positive, and you can help shift your attention to that to transition away. I'll also give you some warnings about some herbs, because there are some herbs out there that are very effective, at least based on the experiences we've seen with people using them for transitioning off alcohol and other drugs. However, those can be addictive themselves, and they also can kill your libido and do many other things.
Contribute towards temporary ED.
Yeah, yes, and speaking of ED in that area, we'll also touch on how certain pharmaceutical drugs, blood pressure meds, particularly antidepressants, can wreck people's libido, and what you really need to talk with your doctor about for that stuff. So beyond that, we will go briefly into techniques for women for sensual stimulation, and we'll talk about in Tantra or Neo-Tantra, they talk about de-armoring the vagina, which basically, there's not time to go into it today, but many times women's first, and Wendy pointed this out several years ago, and I was like, wow, never thought about that and heard it, that women's first, if women are not sexually abused, which sadly anywhere between 25% and more women have some kind of incident that happens to them, but if they're not sexually abused, their first encounter with vaginal penetration is usually at a doctor's office with a gynecological exam. And that's not exactly, I've never had that, but I've had prostate exams, and it's not on my list of things that I look forward to. Now, some guys like their prostate being stimulated, but that's the difference. Whole different context, and it's the way the brain processes it. So we'll touch on some areas to work through for that, because women can have orgasms in very amazing ways. I'm giving a talk here in a few weeks on the 3 different types, major categories of orgasms women can have, which are the surface vulva clitoral orgasms, which are more mediated by the pelvic and pudendal nerves in the spine, and then the ejaculatory orgasm, where it's almost like the wiring's reversed for women and men, and the internal urethral sphincter opens. And then we'll talk about deep vaginal orgasms, which is the main area of focus that I've done because of our product and all, which is a separate pathway through the vagus nerve. But women's bodies are truly amazing things, and there is a process you can go through for transitioning from either feeling nothing from penetration or pain to feeling pleasure. And once you can do that, it opens up a whole new world of exploration that you can have for enjoying life. So we'll touch on that. Then we will touch on male techniques, because a lot of times guys are overlooked. They're like, well, they'll just be happy to be there and be along for the ride. There are many things you can do with touch for men that are game changers. The nerves, there are actually 4 different receptors in our nerves that pick up stimulation at different frequencies. The Ruffini corpuscles, Merkel discs, basically they're the little sensors at the ends of the nerves that detect things, and most people target just one style of touch,
and they kind of get stuck in that pattern.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of the problem, is just kind of getting stuck in the same pattern, and then when something changes, whether it's a health situation, hormonal, outer conditions like the pandemic, business concerns, whatever it is, and there's no adjustment or communication to that change, then it's going to cause more and more progressive problems, potentially leading to divorce. And, there's a whole group of problems with that, including, some people forget about their relationship or don't pay as much attention. They focus only on business, and they might build this amazing business and to the cost of their relationship, but then lose over half in a divorce,
Yeah.
and then their credit is shot and everything. So there's kind of the fear of that, or the moving towards for a greater, more fulfilling experience that is beyond anything you could have ever imagined would happen in a relationship. And you deserve that, and your partner deserves that too.
Yes, you really do. So that's the kind of the summary of what we'll talk about in the third date, as well as just emphasizing. We'll emphasize this in each class, that physical intimacy for relationships, based on what we've seen, is absolutely critical for long-term relationship health. Now, whether that's actual intercourse, whether that's orgasm, whether that's just touching, whether that's just being able to look at each other's facial expressions, we are wired as mammals. We need that. And the problem is some defense mechanisms can cause both of us to get farther and farther away, and we don't even realize it. So that's a critical thing to understand. Now, the fourth date, if you want to call that, is kind of a quick introduction to Tantra and other Eastern arts. And I have an unusual background that I started studying Tai Chi when I was 8. I was morbidly obese and was able to lose weight with that and other things. And my Tai Chi teacher gave me a book by a guy named Mantak Chia when I was 13. Scared me to death. It was about Taoist yoga. And that's very similar to Tantra. And I practiced that devoutly until I was 28, and then I kind of stopped. And still, we have our own methodology for that. But the difference in what we'll explain, and we'll call it the neuroscience of Tantra, what we'll explain during that session is, at least my and some other people that I know's perception of what that stuff actually is. Because a lot of times, especially if you are a Western thinking, logical, left brain person, and somebody goes, feel the warmth in your Dandian ascend, and blah blah blah, and the spirit moves the chi, and da da da, and what the heck is that? So what we do is
and that can be like speaking a foreign language. If somebody is thinking with a logical mind, it's kind of like, well, how do you feel about that when they're thinking? Maybe what are your thoughts about that or something? And
that's a great point. It is a foreign language.
It is.
Yeah.
And we've had that before early on, like, oh, how do you feel about that? And you're like, I don't really have a feeling about that.
Yeah. And people are different.
Yeah.
So we'll explain things from a physical sensation standpoint, because that's what I've worked through when I tried to understand those things when I was younger. And then also I got interested in ballroom dancing as a fluke in college, and was able to fund part of my school doing that, and then did it later as fun. And I taught people at the medical school where I was doing research how to dance at a coffee house just for fun. And during the years of doing that, I learned there's a whole different way of teaching left brain logical thinkers that kind of stuff compared to people that just feel the rhythm and just go with it, because I still don't feel the rhythm. I can kind of let go and partially flow, but
I think there's a rhythm gene, because if music starts playing, I just, even if I don't like the song, I'll be, moving to it and grooving. And our daughter is the same way. But,
me not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we do.
And that's okay. Everybody's different.
Yeah. We do a lot of tango, Argentine tango, salsa dancing, and all that stuff. We love it.
That's how we met ballroom dance.
Yeah, back in 1999. So, and it's a great thing to do. But my point there is, for this bonus class, what we're going to do is try to give you an understanding of what the heck this stuff actually is, what the high level of what these sensations are, and more importantly, why you want to do it. And there are 3 main reasons that we found that you'd want to do it. The first is for self-exploration. We explained on the first day the different motives for sex, and one of the motives is the spiritual, or the feeling, in French they call it la petite mort, the little death, that momentary feeling of loss of self, or flow state, that some people describe it. And in these arts, they try to expand that feeling farther out so that you can be there longer. And there are many advantages of that for self-exploration, whether you are religious or agnostic or atheistic. Basically, that feeling of spirituality that can come from that state is a very interesting thing to kind of be in for a longer period. And I'll explain from a kind of a left brain standpoint. If you understand and you explore higher mathematics with multidimensional theories and quantum mechanics, and you're aware of the observer effect from the fifth and sixth dimensions, it's really kind of interesting. Now, that probably didn't make any sense to you here, but I'll explain it with a metaphor or an analogy. The guy who created a really cool book called U Squared wrote. He said the idea is, imagine you're in a room and it's a warm room and there's a fly desperately banging at a window trying to get out, and you know that fly is probably going to keep trying until it dies. Well, at the same time, if you look around just 15 feet away, there's an open window that's to the outside. And all the fly would have to do is turn around and fly the other way. And very, very little effort. And it's free. But all the fly knows is what it knows. And all it knows is that it's it wants to get out that window. And it just tries harder and harder and harder until eventually
it dies.
Yeah. But meanwhile, you're sitting here looking at it from a different perspective. And you can see more things. Well, that's for self-growth, and then the two other things we'll talk about. That's kind of what this experience can do. It allows you to expand your awareness so that you can see things that you might not have noticed before. And for personal development, that's one very, very interesting thing, and also for health. But then in connection with a partner doing that, you can connect on a much, much, much deeper level. And beyond that, just like you can produce a physical baby through the act of sex, this great guy, and I'm forgetting his name, that wrote U Squared, we talk about we squared, or Wendy came up with that idea of we squared.
We squared, yeah.
And where you can have a shared vision, and by using those states, maybe it does something on a spiritual level too. It very well might, and I just don't understand that stuff. But it causes your mind to change, so you're more likely to see
the fruition of those conjoined, hopes and dreams and desires come true, because, two people is actually more than two combined together, and having those, especially in that flow state.
Yes, so that's what we're not going to give you all the answers in that. That's a huge topic. That's years, but we're going to give you an overview. So the goal is, when you come away from this, you will have, for your first date, a set of tools to understand each other better and communicate. From your second date, you will have a to-do list to make your bedroom much better at what it should be used for. The third date, you'll learn some physical techniques to both address some challenges that men and women can have, as well as to make each other feel good. And then on the fourth bonus date, we're going to cover a high-level overview of what this Tantra stuff, or in my case, Taoist yoga stuff, actually is. So that's the main, let me see if I'm missing something. That's the main stuff that we were going to talk about. And wow, we're actually close to 2:45, so on target. But we will switch to the screen where we can actually see you guys. I hope we will. Let's see here. And trying to see if we have any questions. If anybody does have questions, please, in fact, I'll type it in here. If I can type right. We'll be happy to answer any questions here for a few minutes. We did have some questions in our group. The Facebook group asked, we have a men's program that's just coming out for the high massager, and someone asked, should they do the men's program first? My thought is there's no real need to, because basically this is going to cover things you will do with your partner in advance, or it's just good stuff to learn. And this program actually transitions to our more detailed explanation of the couples program, which follows. Where what we've found with High is, and we're just launching this new approach. As you can tell, I'm kind of a geek, and I tend to bombard people with huge amounts of information, and it overwhelms them. So we've taken the product and we've worked it down to 3 different techniques, and we call it Relax and Reignite with High. And the goal is for each partner to commit to the other one that one day a week they'll give them this 15-minute massage. And it massages the back in a certain way, particularly focusing on the lower back where there's this area called the lumbar plexus. Then there is the rear, which is the sacral plexus, which, long story about that. But
and the gluteus maximus is the largest muscle in the body. And in our society, most people are sitting all day long at the computer. That's most likely their job. And as the blood flow is hindered, it affects the back as well as the legs. A lot of people have said, when they have this massage with the back and the buttocks, it profoundly increases the blood flow. We've had people, tell us that it's relaxed their back. A lot of times we have certain tension points in our back, and that can happen for multiple reasons. And some of it's related to what Steve was saying earlier, Steve Porges' theory and everything. I've got a certain place in my back between the shoulder blades, and it's interesting. It's the same area where my mom holds tension. And, during the pandemic, we couldn't go to a chiropractor. I used to go to one all the time. And since Steve and I have been implementing this in other couples, they've seen a dramatic drop in, having to go to a chiropractor or a therapist. And we actually do have several chiropractors and therapists that use the High massager, on their patients to profoundly relax their muscles before adjusting them. Because if an adjustment is made and the muscles are still tense, it can cause more harm than good.
Yes. So what this does is basically one partner commits just 15 minutes once a week to massage the back, the rear, and then if the partner wants, the pelvic area, with no obligation to get anything back. If their partner wants to reciprocate, they're welcome to, but it's actually recommended for the beginning just not to, and just it's totally for their enjoyment. Then another day, ideally not the same day, the other partner does the same, because there are male techniques for High too, both for the back, rear, and also for pelvic and penis stimulation. So what that gives you is once a week you have something to look forward to, that you're having a crappy day right now, but Saturday afternoon you're going to be able to just chill and be focused on. And that we found that when couples do that, and we explained this in the first day on different ideas of love, there's it's called mudita, if I'm pronouncing it right. There's a Hindi word that basically talks about the kind of love someone has when they just want to see the other person succeed. A lot of times that happens with children. If your child did well in school or sports or whatever, you're happy.
Yeah, you're genuinely happy for that person.
It's not a point system. It's not the first kind of love, which is a commerce type of exchange.
Which is most prevalent, at least in American culture.
And it's what's taught, because that gets us to buy all sorts of stuff. But that's what it ultimately leads to. As far as that question, should the men's program be studied first? It's actually really, really easy. You can just go through the video we have in our training center for that if you want. But it also, if you want to wait, that's fine too. Next week we're going to cover these fundamentals that you can apply, and then this builds the framework that the couples massage is based on. And it's just a real simple thing you can do for each other that, again, no medical claims, but it feels as good as a chiropractic visit for me, for that.
And it helps to, excuse me, I'm losing my, build the safe environment. I remember when, fortunately, I grew up with, my parents were into natural homeopathic health, and massage is just a part of the health process. You go to a massage therapist or a chiropractor, and I remember getting massages and the therapist would be like, is there anything else I can help you with or do? And I'd be like, can you drive me home? Because I'd be so relaxed. Well, with this, you don't have to drive home afterwards. You're already there.
Yeah, so it's just something that if you choose to do it. Now, the thing is, some people choose not to do it. They're so stuck in that point tit-for-tat system that they can't break out of that paradigm. But we want to at least invite you to that opportunity, because if you do that, just that very basic thing once a week, it'll be a game changer for your relationship. That, though, is after this, the dates will show you. The dates will teach you skills independently that'll be real handy. And you don't have to have a high massager for that. It's a free public service we're providing because a lot of people need it. But that was the only question. Well, they may have posted other questions and I haven't seen. If anybody does have any questions, just let us know real quick. If not, we'll try to answer them, in the chat or
and
via
some people have asked, if they're not in a relationship right now, can I take the challenge? Should I do the bulletproof your bedroom? And
I'd say it's more important to take it before you're in a relationship. Yeah. So if you go to bulletproofyourbedroom.com, you can sign up. Basically, you get on our list and we send you the information. And then there is a private Facebook group to join where we'll stream the classes or the dates, however you want to call it. It won't take long. It's just, 45 minutes to 60 minutes, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday night. And if you want to attend the bonus challenge, if you want to learn that other stuff, you're more than welcome to. And we genuinely want to help people with this, because this disturbing trend of divorces sucks, and if there's anything we can do to help change the tide in the right direction, we want to do it and share what we know. So we appreciate you guys watching, and if you have any questions, please post them on our group or here or email us. But thank you guys again. And
thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend. And probably at the end of the class, to kind of celebrate you and your partner and taking this journey, we'll have like a mini fun online dance event together where we teach simple quick steps, and you can both celebrate what you've done. So not only will you learn skills together on these mini dates, but you'll also have a fun dance party at the end.
Yeah, so that's she's really good at that. but thank you, Mind Valley community too. We love you guys. We're part of the same tribe, and Vishen, you just rock for making that, and everybody. So take care, have a great weekend, and we will talk to you guys here this coming Wednesday. Be there. It'll make a big difference.
Kisses to you all, and distance hugs.
Yes. Take care.